This Thursday morning edition of Pucks Across Borders on Total Apex Sports and Sports Addict Live, brought to you by none other than First Round Collectibles. Right now, with the promo code Sports Addict, you get 10% off whatever sports card your heart desires. What's your sport? Hockey, football, basketball, baseball, maybe wrestling, maybe even boxing. Whatever it is, you can get it at firstroundcollectibles.com. And like I said, with the promo code Sports Addict, you get 10% off. They still have sales items up from Christmas up to 50% off. With the Sports Addict Live promo code, you get an additional 10% off. That's promo code Sports Addict for 10% off, whether it's a sale item or a regular price item. Go to firstroundcollectibles.com today and find your heroes. That's the number one, STRoundcollectibles.com. First Round Collectibles, sports cards for sports fans.
Yeah. Let's go. We just gotta go hard. I go the hardest. I bring the pain. Not what you used to. It's all part of the game. Yeah, I just gotta go hard. I just gotta go hard. Go hard. Yeah. Oh yeah, the beast back. Adrenaline pumping through my veins. Can't relax. Original. I am not the same as these cats. I sting them if they...
And welcome to Pucks Across Borders, live on a Thursday morning on Total Apex Sports and Sports Addict Live. Whether you're watching in the future or watching live, we appreciate you. Good to be here. Not too much to get into from last night. A breaking news trade, of course, but 12 games to dive into tonight. But before all of that, you read his work about the NFL on Gridiron Heroics, Winners and Whiners. You see him talk about the NFL, the NBA, college hoops. He talks about it all on Total Apex Sports. Andre, how you feeling on a Thursday morning, bro?
Feeling pretty good. Rangers won. That helped a lot last night. I slept a little better, but it's a pretty good day. End of February. Fake day of the year, or fake day of every 4 years, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, you hear of like, it's my birthday. I'm like 30, but I'm like 6 or whatever, however the math works. But yeah, man, it's good to be here. Of course, John is on assignment, living it up on Sports Addict Live money. Not accurate at all, but he's away for a little bit, so we're holding down the fort. Like I said, on the ice, not too much to get into last night. St. Louis loses to Edmonton in overtime, 3-2, after holding a 2-0 lead early in the game. You could tell as that game went on, second game of a back-to-back, they gave it all they had in the first like 10 minutes of the game and quickly faded away. Got a point, but needed the 2. Edmonton needed the 2 to keep pace with Vegas. And then you had your boys, the Rangers, little sweaty for a little bit. For whatever reason, Columbus has an extra pep in their step when they play the Rangers. Maybe it's the Panarin revenge. I doubt anybody cares. But regardless, Columbus worked them hard, and the Rangers come out with the eventual 4-1 win. We will quickly touch on the trade that I mentioned from last night. Chris Tanev, lots of speculation about his destination. Was pretty clear that him and his other his counterpart on the defensive end for Calgary, Noah Hanifin, are both moving on. Chris Tanev is the one that moves on first. He goes to Dallas, as well as goalie prospect Cole Brady also goes to Calgary in a 3-team trade. Calgary receives Artem Grushnikov and Dallas second-round pick. in 2024 and a conditional third-round pick in 2026. I believe that third-round pick is conditional if Dallas makes it to the Stanley Cup Finals this year. Then Calgary gets that pick, I believe, is the condition. Going to New Jersey in all of this, New Jersey takes 50% of the Tanev contract for this year, and they get a fourth-round pick in 2026. Not too much to really say on it. Tanev is a phenomenal defensive defenseman for sure. Noah Hanifin is much more on the offensive side than Chris Tanev is, but no doubt he's a very, very good defenseman. I always thought you heard that if it's not a first-round pick, then he's not leaving, and I always felt like a first-rounder was a bit too rich for Tanev. Now, mind you, Dallas's first is going to be like a bottom 5 pick in the first round, right? So really, how much difference is there than a second rounder somewhere else? But nevertheless, he is on the Dallas Stars. Toronto fans, I think I'm never hopeful that Toronto's getting anybody good. Like when we got Ryan O'Reilly last year, I was stunned. So I'm not too shocked by this. Obviously hopeful that something can break our way with Hanifin, but we'll see. Anything from you on this trade? I don't think it's really that insane. I mean, Dallas is already a very deep team, so obviously this helps them.
Yeah, I think it helps them where they needed it the most, though. If you're looking at this team, PK's 11th, top 5, or not top 5, but top 10 offense, top 10 power play. Jake Ottinger, he's healthy, good goalie. It was really 5-on-5 defense that needed to shore up. Tanev helps that because he is a defensive defenseman. He's not your Makar, Hughes, Fox, even Heiskanen, who's going to be paired up with a guy who's getting points, racking up points. He's just going to shut down the opposing team's top line, you would think. So he helps a lot in that department. And assuming that he's with Heiskanen on the top D pair, he puts Heiskanen back on his left side, moves Thomas Harley down to the second pair. So that should help Heiskanen's game a lot too. So I think it's a good trade for them.
Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, I mean, we've talked about this. Like their depth from the forward position is phenomenal. So to add that extra bit, and I think like Dallas, they're one of those teams that is, I don't know, would you call them cup or bust? They're close. Like they're a very good team.
Yeah, I'm not sure if cup or bust applies to them, but with the season they're having, that's obviously the goal, right? And I guess they did last year 108 points. I don't know. I wouldn't say this year. I'd say next year is the cup or bust year. I'd say this year is just building off of last year. But they're on the cusp. They're contenders for sure now. Like they have to be.
Yeah, and I mean, I was actually looking at this morning. We're going to talk about them in a little bit. They have a huge game against Winnipeg later on tonight for first in the division. And I was thinking about it. They haven't been great. They've been losing quite a bit in the last couple weeks. 1-6 in their last 7 games. But the fact that they're still right up there tied for the division lead shows you how good of a season that they've been having, where they can have this kind of rough stretch and still not lose too much ground on the division lead. So that happened last night, gearing up to a trade deadline next Friday. I'm always kind of skeptical. Like last year, there was a ton of moves, but the NHL trade deadline is historically very boring. So we'll see how many other big moves have happened between now and then. All right. So a viewer commented on our stream a couple days ago asking us about fighting in the NHL, if it matters, if it's necessary, if there should be fighting, if there shouldn't be fighting. I think it's a pretty classic old school versus new school argument. I was thinking about this the other day that this year, and I could be wrong, this is nothing factual that I'm looking at like statistically, but it feels like there is more fighting in the NHL this year than there has been, at least in the last few years. That's what it just kind of seems like from watching the game every night. And I want to kind of segue this to your boy, Matt Rempe. Pictures circulating of him at practice yesterday with just a black eye, and like he has like an average of like less than 5 minutes a game, but his penalty minutes is just like through the roof. That's been the kind of classic conversation, is he has more penalty minutes than ice time. I personally was really happy to see him not fight last night. I don't think fighting every game is necessarily healthy. Just very quickly, is your stance? I know he's become kind of a New York folk hero, but what is your stance on the whole Matt Rempe thing and just fighting in the NHL in general?
I think it's part of the game. I think it's one of the things that makes hockey stand out, unique, and it helps. I know it's not as rampant as it was in, say, the 80s when enforcers and goons were just running around all the damn time, but it helps protect your stars still to an extent. It helps protect the entire team to an extent. Dirty hits get answered. Maybe not fighting every game, especially when you're 21 or whatever, is smart.
Right.
Rempe, love the kid. Don't want to see his brains get turned into mush already. But fighting there's still value in it. Not as much as the old days. For better, I would say, honestly. But I think it's still a good way of keeping things in control for hockey. And I would say that, like, this is a sport where guys have sticks in their hand at all times. If it would never come to this, but there are knives on the bottom of everyone's feet. Like, it could get real nasty out there if a hockey player really wanted it to. So allowing you to punch somebody in the face is probably the best alternative.
Yeah, and I think it's just one of those things. It's just always been a part of the game. It's deep rooted, and I think that you're absolutely right. The idea of policing the game, I mean, would I go as far as to say that it's necessary? I mean, I would get pretty close. I'm glad that it's not what it used to be, for sure. I don't like the idea of guys being in the NHL solely to fight. I mean, on a human level, we know about CTE. We know the damage that has done. We know about guys like Wade Belak and Bob Probert. And the list goes on, where post-career, it is tragic what can happen in these guys' minds. And so I don't like the idea of somebody being in the NHL only to fight. You had guys, growing up watching Ty Domi. Like, yeah, Ty Domi was super tough and he could fight, but that guy was a phenomenal skater and he could keep up with the game. He wasn't like, he was there to fight, but he wasn't, playing 4 minutes a game. Like, he could keep up with the game. And so, yeah, to answer the viewer's question, I think fighting absolutely has its place in the game. I think it's managed way better now than it was before. So that's our take. As far as bad beats, nothing really last night. I mean, 2 games in the NHL. I think the only bad beat was when we had Columbus under 2.5 goals, and that hit. We had Rangers minus 1.5, that hit. Oilers minus 1.5 was the other play last night, and I I really did think that once they tied it up 2-2, this was going to be a 5-2 game. I really thought that. So the only real bad beat to choose from is we picked the Oilers minus 1.5. I believe we all did. And it didn't come to fruition for us. But I also thought Binnington played a phenomenal game. Really cool side note to see Hyman get 40 goals. Good for him. Now they're talking about, will he get 50? That's always the conversation, right? It's like we celebrate him getting 40 for a minute and then will he get 50? Is it a disappointment if he doesn't get 50? But yeah, exactly. But good for Hyman. Good for Hyman. All right. Let's just dive right into it, man. 12 games in the NHL tonight. We will start with a team that you watched very closely last night. Odds already changing, money already coming in on Carolina. Carolina is in Columbus. Columbus is plus 210 at home, while Carolina is minus 258. The over is 6.5 at minus 102, and the under is minus 118. Minus 1.5 for Carolina is minus 102, while plus 1.5 for the Blue Jackets is minus 118. We'll go to you first, man. I mean, there's only two of us, so there's not too many options. Yeah, we'll start with you on this one, man. What do you see in this game tonight?
I feel like the Jackets are getting fed to the wolves a little here by the schedule. Yeah. And give them credit where it's due. I will. They've played the Rangers tough 4 times this season. The past 2 games on their schedule. They beat the Rangers at home 4-2. Followed that up. I know yesterday's was 4-1. First period, they had a lot of dangerous scoring chances. Just kind of couldn't keep up in the second. Well, I wouldn't say fought. Igor kind of gifted them a goal, and then they couldn't scratch another in the third before 2 empty netters. It was tighter than the score would indicate. But 2 straight games with the Rangers. Now they get the Canes, who are right behind the Rangers in the Metro standings. And the Canes beat them, 3-2 earlier this year, the only time they met. I just don't see a world where Columbus keeps this close. Not even at home. I don't see any way. There is no way where they're a better team than Carolina. And they're playing the second half of back-to-back. I don't really know if I have to add much more than that. But the puck line was plus 100, or it was plus money at some point in this game for Carolina to win by multiple goals. It's minus 102 now. So it looks like it's going down. I would try to hop on that as soon as possible if you're going to bet that. But for sure, taking Carolina minus 1.5 in this one. And I'm going to take the under because, like yesterday, I don't see Columbus scoring more than 2 goals if they score 2 goals.
Yeah, and I mean, even if they didn't play last night, even if they didn't play the Rangers last night, which is a tough game as it is, this is still a minus 1.5 for me. Last night just kind of adds to it. Carolina 7-2-1 in their last 10. 1 out of the last 14 games where they allowed more than 3 goals. So their goaltending has really straightened out for them. And Columbus is already a team. They're already a team that does not score a ton. Columbus 4-6 in their last 10. I just already felt that this would be minus 1.5, and the fact that they played the Rangers 2 out of the last 3 days. I don't think that obviously that doesn't help them at all. A fun little side note about Columbus. I don't know if this really matters. Out of the 19 wins that the Blue Jackets have, only 4 of those wins did they score less than 4 goals. So they're one of those teams, like when they win, they score a lot. But when they don't, they really, really don't. So I'm with you on the under. I also think minus 1.5. Moving on to the Toronto Maple Leafs, minus 250 favorites at home against the Arizona Coyotes, plus 205. The over is 6.5 at minus 115. The under is minus 105. Maple Leafs minus 1.5, plus 100. Coyotes plus 1.5 is minus 120. Talked a lot about the Leafs and where they're at the other day. Really, really big win. A bit of a trap game-ish for the Leafs. They play the Rangers on Saturday. They play the Bruins next week. They have a couple more tough opponents in the next couple weeks. So you get, Vegas, Colorado, Vegas, New York, and Boston, and sandwiched in the middle is Arizona. And so this is a really, really big game. Do not be fooled by the fact that it is the Coyotes. This is absolutely a droppable game for the Maple Leafs, but they just can't afford to drop games right now. They got to keep winning. I'm taking the minus 1.5 at home. That was a really, really tough game. I didn't think that 6-2 really showed how the game really went, but they didn't have their best stuff. Tough game, punch in the mouth. Let's bounce back. Let's get the win. I like it, minus 1.5 at plus 100. As we've talked about before, power play, best power play in the league. Nylander, Matthews, Marner, all valuable plays as far as power play points go. I like that one. The other play that I like, riding the hot hand, Bertuzzi has been a disappointment as far as offensive production all year long. On Saturday, he gets the hat trick. The other night against Vegas, he also scores. Tonight, he is plus 220 to get a goal tonight. So ride the hot hand with Bertuzzi. I like it. He's finally starting to get clicking. And there's no doubt about it, when the playoffs come along, yes, Matthews, yes, Marner, yes, Nylander, but guys like Bertuzzi need to contribute if this team is going to go far. And so let's hope in Leaf Nation that he is getting hot at the right time. Andre, what about you, man? What do you see here?
I didn't realize you guys played Boston twice after you played us. I sandwiched between the Sabres, of course, but
yes.
Yeah, that's kind of wild. That's rough.
That's right.
For this game, I see Leafs bounce back. Offense only mustered 2 goals against Vegas. Vegas is a really good team, so disappointing. But if there's a team where that's going to happen against, it's acceptable to be the Golden Knights. Can't see that happening against the Yotes, especially not after they scored 6 on them like a week or two ago. Was that last week? Last Wednesday?
Yep.
So yeah, bounce back performance from Toronto's offense. You said how many goals from Matthews? You say 2
tonight?
Yeah.
I think he can get 2 tonight. Sure.
Okay. I would say 2 goals from Matthews also.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, he's the man of the hour, so we have to talk about him.
Well,
but, yeah.
And to your point, Andre, he hasn't scored in 2 games. That's unacceptable.
Is he falling off?
Yeah.
Is his career over?
Yeah. Trade him.
No. But, yeah, for sure, I see a Leafs win. Similar to last game. Probably not the same score. I'll go like 5-3 this time, but Toronto wins by multiple goals. Definitely the over also. I think we're reading this the same way. Needs to be a win. Will be a win. They're going to bounce back. They were playing tremendous before that Vegas game. And even the Vegas game wasn't as bad as the score. So.
Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, Tampa Bay is playing Buffalo tonight. Detroit is playing the Islanders tonight. So you got to get this win. You're playing the Coyotes. Don't look ahead to the weekend. Just get this win and move on. Speaking of the Atlantic Division, the Florida Panthers are playing the Montreal Canadiens. Florida minus 340 favorites at home. Montreal plus 270 road dogs. The over is 6 at minus 120. The under is plus 100. Montreal is plus 1.5 on the puck line at plus 110. Minus 1. That's crazy. Plus 1.5 is plus money. We never Never see that. -1.5 for Florida is -130. Where are you at with this game?
I'm a little disappointed. Well, yesterday, I don't know if you remember, I said Columbus under 1.5 goals. It was like plus 200 that hit. Today, I was looking at Montreal -2.5 or under 2.5 because I was like, first game against Florida this year, 5-1 loss for the Canadians. Second game against Florida, 4-1 loss. So I was like, okay, with the way the Florida's playing now, they're already holding everybody to 2 or fewer goals. So I was like, it's a no-brainer, right? Decent odds. If it was like -145, 150 like Columbus was yesterday, all over it, it's -170 for the Canadians under 2.5 goals. So you have to go under 1.5 at +165. And at that point, I might as well go shutout, right?
Might as well.
Might as well, but I'm not going to do that. This game is going to be under the total because Montreal is going to struggle to score. With that said, if the Canadians only score 1 goal, if they get shut out, whatever you think, you have to lean towards the Florida's winning by multiple goals. That's just common sense. You would think. You'd have to assume they score at least 3 goals. They scored 4 the first time. They scored 5. Oh, no, they scored 5 the first time, 4 the second time. Panthers, solid offense. It's not the strength of their team that is their goaltending, which allows the second fewest goals per game. But they've scored 3+ in all of their wins since February 8th. They only have 1 loss in that stretch when they got shut out. So looking at a 3-1 game that beats the puck line, and that's good enough for me. So Florida -1.5 in the under.
Yeah, not too much to add. The only thing, because I was thinking that as well, as far as the -1.5 goes, the only thing that makes me a little bit skeptical is that Florida has played 4 straight 1-goal games. The last one, of course, being against Buffalo. Now, I mean, I don't know how much better, but Buffalo is theoretically a better team than Montreal. But that does kind of have my attention. 4 straight 1-goal games. Does that kind of trend keep going? The thing that kind of put me against that thought was that Montreal, 4 out of their last 6 games, they've allowed 4+ goals. And Montembeault is in the net tonight, but you can't give up that many goals and expect to keep this game close. I am leaning on the Florida -1.5 side, but the fact that they have had 4 straight 1-goal games does kind of get my attention. And with Montreal being plus money at +1.5, I feel like that is tempting, but I do think the logical play here is Florida. The other thing with the Panthers, and I think that you kind of touched on this, was in 2024, they have only 4 games where they've scored less than 3 goals. So they for a team that scores, like you said, at least 3 goals, against a team that has allowed 4+ goals in 4 out of the last 6, not a good recipe for Montreal. I will add on the Montreal side, Cole Caulfield, 20 shots in his last 5 games. Tonight, his shot prop is over 3.5, is -120. So I like it, -120, not too expensive. So the only thing Montreal really has going for it tonight is Cole Caulfield over 3.5 shots is -120. All right, moving on. Detroit home against the Islanders. Huge game for both of these teams. Just a little recap. Detroit, 72 points. They are in the first wildcard spot. They are 2 points back of the Toronto Maple Leafs for 3rd in the Atlantic. Then you have the Islanders, who are at 62 points. They are 7 points back of that second wildcard spot, and also 7 points back of Philly for the 3rd spot in the Met. So clearly a more important game for the Islanders than Detroit. But Detroit wants to create as much breathing room as possible in the final stretch of the season. Detroit minus 115 at home. Islanders minus 105, which I thought was curious. On the road, of course. Over is 6 at minus 118. The under is minus 102. Minus 1.5 for Detroit is plus 210, while plus 1.5 is minus 258. New York 4-3-3 in their last 10, 2-5 in their last 7. Of course, some overtime losses sprinkled in that 5. Props to be kind of looking out for the Islanders. Barzal 20 shots, Horvat 18 shots, Nelson 22 shots, all of those within the last 5 games. So look at the shot props for all 3 of those guys. I really like. Pretty reliable all year long, these 3 for plus money plays. Detroit, listen, 6 straight wins, 7-2-1 their last 10. They're rolling right now. Eventually they got to lose, right? I do feel like it's worth thinking about taking the Islanders here just because the Islanders, they're really desperate and Detroit's been winning a lot. Eventually that has to break. I don't think that's tonight. I do think Montreal keeps rolling. They're just playing really, really confident hockey right now, man. Like they're playing really good hockey. Even that game against Chicago should not have been that close, but they found a way to win it in overtime. I really like the way Detroit's playing, and minus 115. I like that play. I also like them. I think I like them minus 1.5. I think plus 210 is way too high. I think I like them minus 1.5. The goaltending for Detroit, it's very Jekyll and Hyde, but I can absolutely see them winning this game 4-2, 5-3. When Detroit scores, they score in bunches. So, I mean, we've seen that in the last week or so. So I can see them winning this game minus 1.5. No need to get too greedy with it, though, if you're not confident. Minus 115 is more than good enough. What I will say, DeBrincat, on a bit of a hot streak here, 4 goals in his last 3 games. He is plus 170 to get a goal tonight. What do you see here, man?
Yeah, this Detroit offense should be a problem for the Islanders. We talked about how Detroit doesn't defend well, doesn't goaltend well, whatever. They're better than the Islanders this year. They're PK in a different world, in a different league than the Islanders this year. So I was very surprised that Detroit was only minus 115 to win this game. Makes me think I'm missing something. I know Husso's out indefinitely, but that can't be enough to swing this game that much, right? Yeah, I don't know. I would trust minus 1.5 here. I'm content with minus 115 personally. I would be confident though that they would win by multiple goals. I just can't see with the way that they're running right now, and the way their offense has been all season. With the Islanders of all teams are going to slow them down. I'll give the Islanders props for holding the Stars 2 goals in their last game. But in the 4 before that, they gave up 18 goals. Squeaked out an overtime win against the Penguins, and then the other 3 games. So they blew that game against the Rangers, lost 6-5, and then 0-4 against the Blues, 2-4 against the Lightning. It's the Red Wings win. I see this being a comfortable win for them. And I see the overhitting because they're going to score 4, 5, 6, whatever goals against this Islanders team. And that's too many.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Moving on to Boston, where the Bruins are home to Vegas. Boston, what is it now? 6 straight overtime games. 6 out of the last 7 in overtime. Minus 155 favorites at home. And I don't care if Jack Eichel, Mark Stone, I know that they're out. This is too high for my liking. Minus 155. Vegas plus 130 on the road. Over is 5.5 at minus 120. The under is plus 100. Vegas plus 1.5 is minus 192. Minus 1.5 for Boston is plus 160. What do you see here?
You know what's funny is when these teams played in January, 2-1 Vegas went in overtime. So we might be staring down another extra 3-on-3 5-minute period here. I don't really know what to do with this one. I don't trust the Bruins at all, but like you said, Vegas is beat up right now. Stone's out indefinitely. Eichel's out until March. Howden is out indefinitely. They've got a lot of injuries. I will say the one thing they have going for them that I think will help them compete in this game, especially against Swayman or Olmark, whichever one ends up starting tonight, it's Aiden Hill. The under's low at 5.5. I'm going to trust him. I'm going to take the under at plus 100, double up a little bit my money. And I might take a gamble on Vegas just because, I mean, you got to assume at this point the Bruins are going to OT. So at that point, it's a roll of the dice in 3-on-3. And I think the Knights can pull that one out. So I'll take a risk on the Knights here. I don't have a reason to trust either of these teams right now, even though they're both good teams. And then I'll take the under 5.5.
Yeah, I mean, the under 5.5 is risky, of course, but I think I'm right there with you. I think this is a very close, tight defensive game. And I think a big reason for that is both of these teams are kind of searching right now. Vegas got back in the right kind of lane with that win over Toronto the other night. But yeah, man, Boston is just squeaking out these wins or losses. Like, they're all very close. They're not dominating games. They're not controlling games. I mean, that game against Vancouver on the weekend, they were controlling that game and they gave it away late and they lost in overtime. So I think it's worth a plus 130 sprinkle on Vegas tonight. Now, if there's any team that I trust to figure it out and get it right, it is Boston. But I think if Aiden Hill is in the net tonight, I know Allmark's awesome. I know Swayman's awesome, but I would trust Hill this year over those two. From a Vegas standpoint, 14 out of their last 16 games, they've scored 3+ goals. I kind of trust them, even without Jack Eichel and Mark Stone. I kind of trust them scoring a bit more than I do Boston. Quickly on the prop side. So the under 5.5, I like it. I think I would just rather take Vegas and kind of ride with that. But I can get behind that under. Marchessault has scored 4 goals in his last 3 games. He is plus 180 to score tonight. All right, moving on to Tampa Bay hosting the Buffalo Sabres. Minus 162 are the Lightning at home. Plus 136 are the Sabres on the road. The over is 6.5 at plus 100. The under is minus 120. Buffalo plus 1.5 on the puck line is minus 175. The minus 1.5 for Tampa Bay is plus 145. I mean, Buffalo 5-5 their last 10 games. Tampa Bay 5-5 their last 10 games. Yeah, I mean, you would obviously lean Tampa Bay first glance here, but Buffalo 6 straight 1-goal games. Whether they win or they lose, they're doing it by 1 goal. Obviously, minus 175 for Buffalo, plus 1.5 is too expensive. I don't know. Tampa's one of these teams where you expect them to get it rolling. You expect them to get it together. You expect them to make that final push to solidify a playoff spot. But they've been hot and cold all year long. Number one, I really like the over here. I think both of these teams can score. Even if Tampa scores and Buffalo doesn't, I can still see this being a 5-2 game, 5-3 game. I think over 6.5 at plus 100 for both of these two teams, I think is absolutely. Now, the goaltending for Buffalo has been very good. And we know who Vasilevsky is and how he can play. But I really do like the over here, 6.5 plus 100. I think that's a really, really good play. And I'm kind of leaning a Buffalo upset, man. They've been hanging around these games. They've been playing maybe the best hockey they've played all year, which I know doesn't say much. But I like the way Buffalo's playing right now. They're keeping things close. And Tampa Bay just don't trust it. They can, win games 4-1, or they can lose to Buffalo. So I kind of like Buffalo with the upset, but I definitely like the over. What do you see?
I'm kind of scared of the over, actually. You touched on the way Buffalo's been playing defensively lately. That's a part of it for sure. The first two times these teams played, both low-scoring games. In January, it was 3-1. Beginning of the season, I know not as much stock into that. At least I don't personally, but it was 3-2 in overtime. So when these teams have met each other, the goals haven't been coming, and with the way the Sabres have been slowing down teams consistently lately, coupled with their offense and the inability to score. Wow, I cannot speak today. Kind of deters me. It kind of scares me away from the over. I think I would take the under here. As far as picking
Interesting.
the side, I don't know. It's in a Molly, so I'll take the Lightning. I'll go 60-minute line more than the puck line. The 60-minute line is minus 105. And like you said, the Sabres, win or lose, have been keeping it within a goal. If I'm expecting it to be low scoring again, that makes it more likely that it's within a goal. So I'm going to take the under. I'm going to take the Lightning 60-minute line.
Interesting. Yeah, so we're like polar opposites on this one. It'll be interesting to see. If John was here, he would want to do some like nationalistic bet, but since they're both on your side of the border, then we'll leave it at that. Moving on to Winnipeg, Dallas.
Ooh.
Potentially the game of the night, and I'm looking, and I think this is absolutely Vegas. Boston can definitely make an argument for, but I think this is absolutely, without question, the game of the night. We talked about it earlier in the show. Winnipeg, 79 points, number 1 in the Central Division. Dallas, 79 points, number 2 in the Central Division. Again, we've talked about this at length over the last week or excuse me, week or two. If you do not win the division, you play Colorado. Or if Colorado wins the division, then you play Dallas. Either way, you want to win this division. So, moving on to this game, Dallas minus 135 favorites at home. Winnipeg plus 114 underdogs on the road. The over is 6 at minus 105. The under is minus 115. The Jets plus 1.5 on the puck line are minus 230. Dallas minus 1.5 on the puck line is plus 190. We'll start with you on this one, man. What do you see in this game? Huge game.
Massive game. And, I know the Jets are the one riding high in this one, won 7 of their last 8, whereas the Stars have lost 6 of the last 7. But this game is in Dallas, for one. For two, special teams, huge favor both ways for the Stars. And I think that in particular is why this is a matchup problem for the Jets. Jets, great defensively, great goaltending. Offense, meh, and they can't keep up with Dallas in that department. I know Dallas is solid defensively, nothing spectacular, but I think they're good enough defensively to make up for. I think the gap between Dallas and Winnipeg defensively is tighter than the gap between Dallas and Winnipeg offensively. And then you add that Dallas is tremendous, like way better special teams, but both the power play and the PK. I think the Stars pull this one out. I think they pose a problem for the Jets, and I think that's reflected in the fact that they won both of their trips in Winnipeg this season. So I'm going to trust Dallas to keep winning in this matchup. I think I'm just going to take the standard money line here. I could see this one going to overtime. I could see this being like a 3-2 OT win for the Stars, but I think the Stars are going to pull this one out.
Yeah, it's really funny, man, because I was thinking about this game a lot this morning. Really looking forward to watching it. I was bouncing back and forth. We don't know if Tanev is playing tonight or not. I'm gonna lean Winnipeg here, and I think it's a couple things. I think number one, Dallas 1-6 in their last 7. Jets 7-1 in their last 8. I think the Jets are just overall playing better hockey right now. I know that the Stars lost some close overtime games, 100%. But I do think Winnipeg just in general is playing better hockey right now. I think, one big thing for the Jets is since Kyle Connor came back, he has not been contributing that much at all. In the last 5 games, 5 goals, 5 power play points. He's absolutely starting to come around here. I just think based on the last 2 weeks, Winnipeg has just been playing better hockey and they've been getting better results. And I'm going to lean on that one tonight. Winnipeg plus 114. I like it on the money line. The total, I'm probably going to shy away from. It does make sense that this one would go under. Did you say under? I'm trying to remember now.
I guess kind of, yeah. I didn't specify, but I said 3-2 Stars win in OT.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll obviously these are 2 of the best teams in the league. So if the Stars win, it wouldn't shock me. And I don't dispute them being favorited here at all. But I like Winnipeg plus money in this one. I just think they've been playing the better brand of hockey. No slight to Dallas. I just think this is just a current stretch where I prefer the way that Winnipeg looks. Moving on to Minnesota and Nashville. Minnesota, this is another huge game to update. Nashville is in the second wild card spot at 68 points. Tied with the Kings with 68 points. Minnesota Wild at 62 points. So 6 games or 6 points back of Nashville in that second wild card. And Minnesota has 1 game in hand. So this is a huge game for both of these teams. Nashville minus 115 favorites at home. Minnesota minus 105 on the road. Plus 1.5 for the Wild is minus 245. Nashville minus 1.5 at plus 200. The over is 6 at minus 115 and the under is minus 105. Yeah. What do you see in this game tonight?
This is a tricky game because both teams are playing very well. You look at the Wild, they're 7-2-1 in their last 10. The 2 regulation losses were to the Jets and the Canes. 2 losses that are acceptable for any team, especially in close proximity of each other, whatever. But then you have the Predators. They've won 6 in a row. That includes the Knights. That includes the Kings, who are playing better hockey. Their last loss was the Stars. Again, acceptable games. They're playing very well. And I'll say for the Predators, they've scored 4 goals in 4 straight games. 2 games before that, they scored 5. That's 26 goals in 6 games. 4 and a third per game, if my math is correct. Please, nobody fact check me on that. Which, that's something you expect from the Wild, who are a little better offensively, weaker on the defensive and PK side. That's why I think the Predators are going to keep their winning streak alive. That offense is on a tear right now. Minnesota, their deficiencies, they've been a little bit better at it lately, but the PK is still 29th in the league. They're still giving up 3.29 goals per game. That's 22nd. And against the Predators team, who is solid defensively, I know their PK also stinks. That's an issue because you're asking the Wild to score 5 goals pretty much going into the game. Like, if you don't score 5, you're not going to win, is how I see this one, especially on the road. So I'm taking Nashville. I'm trusting the offense to stay hot against this Minnesota team, and I'm going to take them to win and create some more separation in that wild card race.
I apologize, behind the curtain, had to step away for a sec. So who did you take there in this one?
I took the Preds. To the Preds in the over. I didn't say over, but I'll just sprinkle it in right now.
Yeah. No, it's funny because both these two teams have been playing really well lately. Minnesota 7-2 and won their last 10. Nashville 7-3, 6-game winning streak. I from the vein of the conversation when I step back in, I feels like you might have mentioned this, but Nashville 4+ goals in their last 6 games, which is not something that you would really think of Nashville over the course of the season. I have said this many times on the show. I love the Wild. There's something about them that I really like, something I really like watching about them. I really like watching EK play. This guy's a beast. So smart. Not just scoring points, but just the decisions he makes on the ice. I really like watching him play. I want to root for the Wild so badly, and it wouldn't shock me if they win, but same thing's true with the last game I'm talking about with Winnipeg and Dallas. Both teams are playing well, but Nashville's just playing at another level right now, and they're at home. Playoffs are in their sights, and I'm absolutely with you. Money line, -115. I really, really like it. The +200 is going to catch my eye on the puck line, but I don't think I'll go that far. I really do like Nashville winning tonight as well. I want to cheer for Minnesota here. I just think logically, watching these two teams, Nashville is just playing the better brand of hockey. So I'm right there with you. -115 Nashville money line. Moving on to, if John was here, he'd be rolling his eyes huge right now. Colorado on the road to Chicago. Chicago +240 underdog. That is moved. +245 underdogs at home. -305 now of the Colorado Avalanche. The over is 6 at -115. The under is -105. Avalanche -1.5 is -115. +1.5 for the Blackhawks is -105. Not really a whole heck of a lot to comment on in this game. Colorado been, like I enjoy saying, a bit Jekyll and Hyde lately. 4-5-1 their last 10. They've scored 3+ goals in 6 of their 7 games. We know about the offensive power that this team has. Chicago, what do you say? They've had 4 wins in the year of our Lord 2024. So not expecting much from them tonight. They have scored 3 or more goals. So where Colorado has scored 3+ goals in 6 of the last 7, Chicago has scored 3 or more goals 4 times all year in 2024, all calendar year. So obviously very simple. Colorado, I like them to win. I'll take the puck line -1.5. That puck line against Chicago has doomed us for the majority of the year. But still, I can't not take Colorado -1.5, even at -115 tonight. The total, I'll stay away from it. Chicago games are a crapshoot, man. You never know. Like, if you were to tell me that you're taking Chicago +1.5, I couldn't even argue you. Like, who knows what to do with these games? But I'm taking Colorado -1.5. What say you?
I'll say that you're lucky DraftKings doesn't have -2.5 available for the Avalanche yet, because I was fully going to take it. But in all seriousness, I wanted to just not even talk about this game because Colorado is way better, and Colorado's had a pretty tough schedule lately. This is, besides maybe Arizona, it's their first easy game in a while. But their first trip to Chicago, they lost 3-2. So you can't just write this one off and say, Colorado, whatever, -1.5, Colorado 4-1 win, because they've already lost in this building. We talk about how much tougher the Hawks are at home, especially to score on. And I might take that +1.5 because the Avalanche, I feel like I don't trust them against bad teams right now. I feel like I trust them more against the good teams, or not even good teams, the Western Conference competitors exclusively. If they're facing the tough Eastern Conference team, if they're facing a Western Conference team that's not competing, I haven't really seen them drive the dagger through the heart, so to speak, lately. So I am going to take Chicago +1.5 very tentatively. And if you're taking Chicago at home to do anything good, you have to take the under, because that's how it happens every time. So I'm trusting in the Blackhawks to lose this one 3-2.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. If you're taking the Blackhawks, you're taking the under by default. I completely agree. Moving on to Vancouver and Los Angeles. Very, very interesting game. My favorite of the late slate. Although you can talk me into Pittsburgh, Seattle as well, which we'll get to next. Vancouver -142 at home. Kings +120 on the road. The -1.5 puck line for Vancouver is +170. +1.5 for the Kings is -205. The over is 6 at -115, and the under is -105. We'll go right back to you, man. What do you see in this game tonight?
Yeah, two teams that have lost 3 of their last 4. Two teams that in that stretch have struggled defensively. And if you're looking at the last 4 games for the Canucks, they've allowed 14 goals. I keenly omitted that 10-goal game against the Wild that they lost. But looking at the Kings, their last 4 games, they've also allowed 14 goals. So neither defense is trustworthy right now. If you're then leaning on the offenses, I think there's a clear-cut answer for this game, especially in British Columbia, and it's the Vancouver Canucks, who have been the better team all season. I mean, you know the drill. You know the guys, JT Miller, Quinn Hughes, you name them, they're there. These teams haven't played each other all season, so it'll be interesting to see how they match up this year. But based on what we've seen for most of the season, the Canucks are the better team. They're going to light the lamp at least 4 times based on what the Kings have been doing defensively lately. And that's going to doom LA, because that's not the type of game they want to play. So give me the Canucks 60-minute line. And the over-under I might stay away from, because I could see this being a 4-2 game, which is a push. And one more, one fewer goal just kind of ruins that plan.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on the 60-minute line. I might consider a -1.5 play here as well. This is the thing with Vancouver, and I don't know how much talk about this is happening south of the border, but it's a lot happening up here. um, the Elias Pettersson contract talks are a huge, huge talking point up here right now, in that he is not he didn't want to talk about the contract. He is a restricted free agent at the end of the season. He didn't want to talk about the contract, but then the team kept trying to talk about the contract, and then there's a bunch of drama involved. And I think, and they also haven't been playing that great, like either. You mentioned it, both of them not playing that great. Kings 1-3 their last 4, 6-4 last 10. Vancouver 4-4-2, 1-5 in their last 6. So I absolutely see Vancouver just wanting to squash the noise and get this thing done. Minus 1.5. I can see them just putting their foot on the throat of the Kings at minus 1.5 plus 170. Moving on to Seattle and Pittsburgh. Seattle minus 115 at home. Pittsburgh minus 105 on the road. Minus 1.5 for Seattle is plus 215. Plus 1.5 for Pittsburgh is minus 265. The over is 6 at plus 100, and the under is minus 120. Andre, what do you see here, man?
Huge game for both teams. These teams met in January. Pittsburgh won 3-0. And I can't see the Penguins getting a shutout again, but I think I could see them winning this game again. Got to give them credit. We faded them hard on Tuesday, and they came back to win that game 4-3 in Vancouver. They've won 3 in a row. They've scored 4 goals, 4+ goals in 4 straight, because they did beat Philly 7-6 on Sunday. Been a little shaky defensively when you add that 6-goal game, the 5-goal game against the Isles. They gave up 3 against the Canucks. I guess that's solid performance. But if this offense is going right, you're taking the Penguins 100% of the time. That's been the victory maker for them for the season, if you will. So against the Canucks team, or not Canucks, against a Kraken team that has also allowed 14 goals in the last 4 games. The offense has been hit or miss all season. Goaltending not as sharp as it has been. Some tough games against some tough teams, 2-2 in their last 4. One of those in OT. Don't see them getting many stops. Their power play, talking about the Kraken, won't have much success against this Penguins PK. And I can't see them. Scoring is going to be an issue for them, even at home. So I'm going to roll with the Penguins to beat this team again. I'm going to roll with the Penguins money line, minus 105. I think I would even do the Penguins 60-minute line here at plus 155. I trust them that much to pull this one out. I know I just gassed up the Penguins offense, talking about how they've been scoring 4+ goals per game. And the over is plus 100, over 6 goals. So I'm going to take that as well. I see this being, a 4-3 game, 4-3 win for the Penguins on the road here. Offense stays hot. They give up a few to the Kraken because they've been fighting lately. I'll give Seattle their due, but they're just not going to have enough to win this game.
I changed the layout. I don't even know how I did that. I don't know how to change it back. This just is what it is. So listen, we got some technical issues on my side. I know that there's the Ducks and the Sharks, but we're just going to forget about it. Who cares? I'm picking Pittsburgh here as well, minus 105. I think they're desperate. And I'm picking them, even though it is on the road. We're just going to move right along to our best bets, brought to you by none other than First Round Collectibles. Promo code SportsAddict for 10% off. Sale item, regular price item, doesn't matter. Go to firstroundcollectibles.com and find your heroes. That's the number 1, STRoundcollectibles.com. First Round Collectibles, sports cards for sports fans. Andre, what is your best bet in the NHL tonight? I think you muted my homie.
I did mute myself. That's awkward. Yeah, I like Canes -1.5. Honorable mention the Sharks money line, but going back to that early game, I just second half of a back-to-back for Columbus against another really good team. They played out their minds yesterday, and where Zilkins in particular had a really strong game. Nothing to show for it except a flight back home and a test that's just as tough. Brutal schedule making for them. Hate that it has to be them, but Canes are going to steamroll them tonight. So give me Carolina -1.5.
Absolutely love it. And I'm going to keep it simple. And I don't like doing this. I don't think I've ever actually done this before, but I'm going to take my boys, the Leafs -1.5 against the Arizona Coyotes. I don't think I've ever taken my own team as a best bet, but I'm going to do it. -1.5 +100. I just think this Leafs team has too much to play for. I do not think they'll look ahead to the tough slate of games in the next couple weeks that we mentioned. And I think the Toronto Maple Leafs win by 2 or more goals, -1.5 +100.
Yeah, I think this is the first time you did that without peer pressure, honestly.
I think so. You're right.
You want to take a stab at what John would put? I feel like John would put Red Wings money line here.
Ooh.
I feel like this is a John pick.
Yeah.
Maybe Predators.
Super emotional. Yeah, super emotional. He wants the Islanders to lose. So he's picking the Red. Yeah.
Lock it in. Stay hot. But our picks are, well, mine isn't even money anymore, but Canes puck line is -102. Leafs puck line is +100. Together, that's +296. It's only a 2-legger. Not too bad. Close to yesterday's.
Yeah, and I mean, they're both 7:00 games, so take the 40 that you get from that, the 40 plus, put 20 on it, take the 40 plus you get from that, throw it on some late games. I heard you shout out the San Jose Sharks. I don't mind that play at all. To everybody, thank you so much for watching. As always, whether you're watching live or later in the day, apologize for the technical issues. The last 20 minutes, I've kind of been all over the place, but I appreciate you guys very, very much. We all do follow our socials, like, subscribe, the whole deal. We will see you tomorrow, Friday, in the morning. In the evening, lucky me, I get to see Ottawa's AHL affiliate. So whatever that means to you, probably nothing. But anyway, go to first-roundcollectibles.com, promo code SportsAddict, like, subscribe. We will see you guys tomorrow.
Go Bellevue.